Are you an existing recipient of Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, or a new applicant for this status? Did you know that the Biden administration will soon release a new rule for DACA? Hi, my name is Andre Major, immigration attorney and an immigrant myself. In today's episode, I will discuss highlights on the new proposed changes by the Biden administration for DACA and how they may affect you. Before I begin, please click the subscribe button below and hit the notification bell to get updates on our newest immigration content. Also, feel free to leave your comments below about your thoughts or ideas on today's topic. Let's get started. First, what is DACA and how did it start? Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, is a program enacted in 2012 by former President Obama and then Vice President Biden through an executive order in lieu of the DREAM Act, which aims to protect young undocumented immigrants referred to as dreamers from being deported. DACA was done because the DREAM Act failed, couldn't get through Congress. Since then, DACA has faced many lawsuits. It was to be rescinded by the Trump administration, but the courts stopped it. Trump administration said it was unlawful or unconstitutional. Since its passage in 2012 through an executive order is not technically the formal rulemaking process, a court stopped it in 2021. So last year, a federal ruling prohibited the granting of new DACA applicants, but allowed the renewal of existing recipients under the program until the government issued new rules. So let's look into what are the new rules for DACA. Here are some highlights of the new rule for DACA that the Biden administration is expected to release August of this year. Policy highlight number 1, retention of eligibility requirements. The new rule, unfortunately, will retain the initial threshold criteria for DACA since 2012, rather than expanding the eligibility requirements, as many of us hoped they would, to make the program more accessible for applicants. That means you must have come to the United States before you turned 16 and were under 31 years old when it was announced June 15, 2007. You must have continuously resided in the country since June 15, 2007. You are in school, have graduated from high school, or have a GED certificate. You have not been convicted of felony serious misdemeanor or 3 or more misdemeanors. Many are disappointed with the lost opportunity to expand the criteria. Look, there aren't that many people that have been in the country for over 15 years and are still in school, realistically speaking. They would have graduated probably a long time ago. Very soon, they all will have been. So President Biden lost an opportunity to expand it or missed an opportunity, but nevertheless, many support of DACA becoming a regulation rather than an executive order. Policy highlight number 2, employment authorization is optional. The proposed policy will change the process of DACA by making the request for employment authorization on Form I-765, application for employment authorization, optional. This helps lessen the cost for applicants who don't necessarily need employment authorization. If they're 15 years old and in school or 16 years old, they may not need it yet. Or if someone is a housewife, she'll need it once to get the Social Security number, but after that may not want to renew it unless she's working. Immigration will charge a fee of $85 for Form I-821, that's applying for DACA. If you need employment authorization, then it's $495. It's $85 for Form I-821 and $410 for the work authorization Form I-765. Additionally, a request for employment authorization may also be requested subsequent to the approval of a DACA application, but it should not exceed the period for the grant of deferred action. What that means is DACA is typically granted for 2 years. If you don't apply for DACA initially, or right away, if you don't apply for employment authorization at the same time as you're applying for DACA, if you later file for it, the approval is not going to be for a period past the DACA granting. So if you had 2 years and now a year went by and you want to now ask for employment authorization, when it's issued, it won't be for more than a year. Lastly, policy highlight number 3. Codification of long-standing policies for Daca. First, policy will reiterate USCIS proposed rule to consider those granted deferred actions as lawfully present. While it does not confer authorization to remain in the country, it does, however, help you to not accrue unlawful presence while having Daca status. That otherwise would have implications on admissibility rules for non-citizens. Second, a DACA-specific regulatory provision on eligibility for employment authorization will be added, but this will not constitute a substantive policy change. It will continue to require that non-citizens must have been granted deferred action and establish their economic need to be eligible for this. Additionally, if a DACA grant is terminated, that action would also result in termination of the employment authorization as well. Unfortunately, the new rule for DACA has not expanded its guidelines to consider other provisions such as advanced parole or approved travel for certain recipients. Nevertheless, the new guidelines will create changes for recipients and applicants to the program. And that summarizes the highlights of the new rule for DACA that would be released soon. The most important part about it is you're going to be able to file for an initial application. That's basically it. Everything else essentially stays the same with minor changes. Not to diminish the strengthening of the program, it's hard to not be disappointed knowing what the Biden administration could have done and failed to do. If you're interested to know more about DACA and how to handle or proceed with your case, don't hesitate to schedule a consultation with our experienced immigration attorneys at Andres Law. You can book an appointment at andresmecherlaw.com. If you find this video informative, please like and share it with your friends who are also applying or thinking about applying for DACA or a green card. Lastly, if you have any ideas for future videos or would like me to talk about a particular immigration-related topic, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, stay healthy and be safe.